Hello everybody and welcome to Limelight. My name is Sarah Michelle and I'm an 18-year-old singer-songwriter from Hadley, Michigan. And today we'll be talking about some of the things that I wish that I knew about songwriting and music industry as a whole. Let's get into it.
How did you get into music and how has your career thus far evolved?
I got into music partially through my piano instructor because she sang at our church, and so there would be like recitals that would come up and different practices, and they would have like some of the younger kids come up and sing like a hymn or something. And when I was younger, I always thought it would be cool, but I never really wanted to do it just because I had a little bit of stage fright. Before I like found myself to be this confident woman, I kind of thought about it, and my parents really encouraged me to do it just because, you know, there's really nothing to lose. I would much rather fail in front of a bunch of people that support me rather than a bunch of people that don't. So I started performing at recitals and piano and just church, and when they would call me up on a Sunday, and that's really how I got into it. Yeah.
Awesome. So, what is your favorite part of music?
I just love everything about it. Specifically, I love how much it can make you feel. So like a minor chord can just, like, you physically feel it. Like you feel it in your skin, like your like goosebumps raise, nerves. You can get teary-eyed. I tear up at music all the time, and I don't even have to feel sad. I just love it. And I just think it's a really cool outlet and for everybody.
So if we said like a major chord, what does a major chord make you think of emotionally?
Emotionally happy. So, but like when I think more into it, I think of like a pop song or something, like just a kind of a yellow, like sunshiny kind of vibey song.
What about like a major 7 chord?
Ooh, that gets more into I'm trying to like happy, but with a little bit of spice. So if that makes any sense, that you like you listen to it, and you're happy, but you kind of like feel it. It's kind of like a crunchy chord, I like to call them.
What kind of a spice?
Um,
Like what kind of emotion is the spice?
I don't know. Just like like jazzy kind of comes into mind, or something that's not just the stereotypical like 1 4 like 5. Suspended chords are one of my favorites. I just like you can just put them in anything and it works. You could just have somebody say play a C to a G to an E, and you could put suspended in 7s, and you could make it sound like a whole symphony could back it, and it could. And I just think it just adds so much flavor, I guess.
If you had to pick one chord progression, what would it be?
Oh man, A minor to a C to like an F sharp minor 7.
Ooh.
Yeah. Sounds a little bit weird. It sounds weird to say it out loud, but it sounds good, I promise. This is the first time I've ever been like asked to explain music, I guess, and it is such, like as I said before, it's such a feely kind of thing. It is almost hard to put into words about how it makes you feel or what it is, or I mean you can get like the basics, like the theory of it, like the science of it, I guess, but I think to fully understand it you have to feel it.
When you were growing up, did you guys have a musical family?
My sisters, I started playing piano because my older sister, I have a few siblings, but my 2 oldest sisters played piano for a while, so that's why I got started into it. But after that, it was kind of me, myself, and I. I did a lot of my own exploring, and I did a lot of my own listening to YouTube and just like on the radio, so it was a lot on myself. My family didn't really play a massive part in it, but when I got a little bit, now the sirens, but when I got a little bit older, my siblings closer to age started doing more with me. So my sister Natasha and my brother Glenn both got into musical things like drums and piano and trumpet and guitar. So that kind of pushed me forward. If I ever doubted that I liked it, it kind of helped me go forward.
What's your first musical memory? Like what's the first thing that you can think about where you understood what music was, or any inkling as to how it worked?
I think it was when I was 5 or 6. And like when I really understood music, like playing it myself, my sisters left the top off of the piano, and I was told that I couldn't touch it if the top was down, but the top was up. So I crawled up on the seat, and I remember like Mary Had a Little Lamb, and so I just listened to it and I just like eared it out. And when I figured it out and it was actually accurate, I was like, oh, This is something that I can actually do. I mean, in a 5-year-old brain, which is, oh, it sounds cool, you know? But yeah, I think that's the earliest musical memory of me creating something.
Have you ever been bullied for being a part of the arts?
Yeah, I was gonna say I have never been bullied for it, but I live in a very, conservative kind of not, I wouldn't say traditional, but we have more farmers than we do singers. So since there's not a lot of people in the entertainment industry and there's not a lot of performers, there's not a lot of singers, people tend to be a little bit critical to the people that do want to branch out and do want to do that. For theater, I think more people have been more like poking fun at it just because, everybody's gay in it or something like that. But which is not true, but that's just like stereotypes and different things like that. But for singing, I haven't really gotten any backlash from it because I think that people think it's cool when it's cool, because it is just cool. I think that at the end of the day, somebody either has talent or they don't, and I think it's really hard for people to say to someone that has talent, like, oh, you suck because of it, because it's just not true. They might not be vocal about it, but I haven't really gotten a lot of bad backlash from it.
So, what would you say to people who have gotten bullied or even like discriminated against in the industry? What would you say to those people? Like, what would your advice be?
The only person that can really believe in you is you. So and as cliche as it sounds, their opinions really don't matter. Like, you shouldn't allow somebody that doesn't know the work that you go through or the rehearsals that you've been through, or just they don't feel what you're doing as much as you feel, and that's okay. You're allowed to feel what you're feeling, and they're allowed to feel what they are. I mean, don't let people walk over you. Stand up for yourself. Don't let people be rude or really discriminate against you. But when it comes down to people's opinions, the only people's opinions that really should matter are your own and the people that you love. So as long as you have their back and you have that support from yourself and from the people around you, then you really don't have to be worried about what anybody else says, because that will be your downfall. If you allow other people to get in your head, so many people have other opinions, it will drive you insane.
What are some challenges you faced, and how did you overcome them?
A massive challenge that I faced is just having enough confidence in myself. So I've been told for a large majority of my life, I mean, I'm only 18, but for a large majority of my life, that going into arts is super unstable and I shouldn't do it, and I should go into something that is a lot more sure and that I know that I'll make money in it. And people just, bringing up hardships that I'll have. And it can kind of weigh on you for years if you have so many people saying, you shouldn't do it, you shouldn't do it, you shouldn't do it. But I think that a massive thing that I paid attention to is that they didn't say that I couldn't do it. So I know that I can do it. It's just people maybe didn't. It's not the safest route, but I think that if you love it, then it doesn't really matter if it's safe or not. You're going to do what you love regardless of how stable it is. So I had to remind myself of that, and nothing else really brings me that much joy than performing and just like writing an awesome song or singing harmony with somebody that knows how to do it. So focusing on that love really pushed me through it, and I think that eventually it does help the people that are talking against you it changes their perspective as well. So when you show them that you love it regardless of what they're going to say, regardless of what they're going to do, they eventually give up and they throw in the towel and they're like, okay, cool. So they can either support you or they can leave you alone. And yeah, that's a massive challenge. And the other one, sorry that this is such a long answer, but is when you do get in the industry and you are around people that are really good, there is so much more talent than you think, especially if you're not surrounded by people that love the same thing as you do. Is the second that you see that so many other people can do the same exact thing that you can do, or even better. Like, there's always going to be somebody in the room that's going to be better than you, always. And just not allowing that to discourage you, because there's lots of people that have made careers off of just not being tone deaf. People could like the way that you sound, even if it sounds ugly to others. So it is really up to your personality and your uniqueness, and performing is so much to do with your look and how you are and how people feel around you. Just because somebody else has a big talent doesn't mean that you don't have your own. or in a different way. So I think that's really important to remember doing an audition or hearing other people or being discouraged, is that you have your own uniqueness, and that's what makes you great.
What makes you unique?
Yes, absolutely. Your uniqueness makes you unique.
Oh, that was a question, but no.
Oh,
what
yeah.
makes you unique?
What makes me unique?
Yeah.
Wow, I haven't really even thought about it. I think, in part, my personality. I think that it's very, I'm very young to be very forward. So I believe that I was born old a little bit, because I came out of the womb basically just being like curious and wanting to meet other people and know new things. And that's kind of a uncommon thing for people my age. So I think that does make me quite unique in just this industry. But when I get more involved in it, and there are more people my age that can do things like that, it could be the dimples, it could be my curly hair, it could be the style. I think that like my voice is probably a little bit unique, so I don't sound like every other R&B artist, and I don't sound like every other pop star. I do a plethora of things, so I can go on stage and I can act, and I can also be on film and I can act, and I can sing and act as like a different character. So I think that also kind of ties in. It all kind of ties into each other.
Do you think there's some accuracy to that statement that the whole industry is kind of unstable and it's hard to make it?
I do, because to some extent, if you want to be a lawyer, or if you want to be a doctor, you go to school for this many years, you get the degree, you qualify, and you get in. As a performer, you can kind of do it at any age. It depends on what part of the industry you really want to go into, but it's a lot of, do people like what you're putting out? It's a lot on what other people want and what other people's opinions are, and what the taste is. So it's not like you can just go to school, get this degree, and you can do that, and you can have this whole massive career, and people will love you everywhere, and you'll tour, because it does depend on other people so much. It does get unstable. So I do think that there's a massive accuracy to it. And it's not like you won't be getting a lot of money at the beginning of it. So it is really discouraging, because you go into it and you get paid $100 for a gig that you worked on for hours and hours and hours, and then that might be it for a few months until you can book another one. So it can get discouraging, like financially especially. It's so easy to just be like, you know what, everybody was right. I should just go to college, I should just get this degree, and I should work in a cubicle to do this because it's so much more stable. And that definitely has crossed my own mind quite a few times, and especially since I'm a senior and I'm graduating, I do have to plan out the rest of my life, or that's what it seems like. So it does get very easy to see the lack of progress and almost fall into it. But I think that something that's really important to not, how to avoid that, is that you are making your own progress and there's your own successes. So even though I might not be touring right now with a bunch of albums out but signed to a label for right now, compared to how I was at 7 and the amount of people even just in my own community that know me, and the amount of experience that I've gained and who I want to be as a performer and the songs that I've written, that's success. So you have to take your wins and recognize your losses, but you have to take those wins, because that's the only way that you're going to go forward with it.
You mentioned auditions. Any audition tips?
Well, there's a lot of things. As a singer, don't eat anything or drink anything that's going to coat your throat before you sing or do anything like that. That's for singers specifically, just because you have no idea if an air bubble is going to come up. You don't want to find out. Presence-wise and personality-wise, come off as confident, or they're not going to think that you're confident. So you have to know what you're doing, or they're not going to believe that you know what you're doing. And that's dressing in something you're comfortable in, but you also know that you look good in. And positive affirmations are massive before. So knowing that you're there for a reason and that you love what you do, and that you do what you do for a reason, that allows you to stand a little bit taller and smile a little bit broader and just be really friendly, because personality is the biggest thing for auditioning. Because if you suck, if you're not a good person, or if you're not workable or you're not teachable, then they're not going to want to hire you to do anything.
You mentioned lessons. When did you start taking lessons?
I started taking piano lessons when I was 6-ish, and then when I hit 8, I thought like, oh, I am okay at singing, so I might be able to get into it. And I brought it up to my director, and she said okay. So we started voice lessons.
You sing and play at the same time?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And not every time. Right now, I'm just playing piano and singing for myself, just because I don't have like instrumentalist or like a bassist and a guitarist and stuff like that. So I still have to put together a band. But other than that, yeah.
A lot of people can play an instrument or they can sing, but doing it at the same time is hard for them.
Yeah.
How did you find that coordination? Did that come naturally to you?
I think that I sang so much by myself and I played piano so much by myself. Putting it together was kind of easy, just because my hands just knew what to do, and then my like voice just knew what to do. So I didn't really have that big of a struggle with it, and that is also like just like God gave that to me. It wasn't a.
Would you say music is unexplainable?
I would say to some extent, because I mean, there is, as I was saying, there is like the science of it, so you can go through every music theory book and understand it inside and out, and at the end of the day, sometimes it makes you feel things that you don't always understand. So when you reflect back in yourself, you could hear something or hear a word or a lyric or a melody and not understand why you, or even what you feel, just the fact that you're feeling it.
Do you go by like ear training at all? Like if you hear something, can you play it or sing it?
I can to some extent. I'm not like one of those magic people that can just be like, that was an F sharp. I can't. Not yet, at least. I'm working on it. But ear training, like if I hear a song and I can figure it out on piano and I put my own chord progression to it and I add my own notes to it, then yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
What do you think is more important in a good song? Melody or everything behind the melody?
I think everything behind the melody, because I could take a country song's hook and make it jazzy. I could make it a pop song. I could make it a hard metal song. So if it could be one melody, but depending on how you stack harmonies on it, depending on the instruments that you put behind it, it could be a completely different genre, completely different feel.
I think we kind of touched on it a little bit, but what's your favorite music genre?
It kind of changes daily. For right now, I really love soul R&B. So the like Leon Bridges and Sam Henshaw, I love them right now. Or PJ Morton is a massive art. Like I just love him. He's a massive inspiration to me for right now. But I really love like jazz and kind of the more bluesy kind of area. I've never really gotten into rock or like hard rock. I've never really gotten into metal. I'm not a massive fan of pop, but it also depends on what it is, because pop is such a broad spectrum. But my ideal is contemporary R&B. A common theme that I've recognized is that if I'm listening to a country song or if there's country that's going on the radio, for the next few songs that I try to write after that, it's going to kind of lean towards country. But if I listen to R&B all day and I just get inspiration from that, then it will sound like an R&B song written by this artist or something like that. To some extent, there has to be, because every song that is written is influenced by other songs that were written before them. So if you pull inspiration from what you listen to, and I think that's a really important thing to keep in mind for myself, because I don't want to write songs that I don't like, so I don't listen to music that I don't like.
Like, do you feel like you'll reach a goal?
That I'll reach my goal?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I think that you have to have realistic goals, so I'm not going to say that I'm going to be as big as Beyonce one day. Is there a part of me that hopes? Absolutely. But there are smaller goals, so saying that, like, I know that I'm going to be a performer. I just know that I'm going to be a performer. I know that I'm going to be on stage for the majority, if not the rest of my life. And saying those things as, like, a confident, that's what's going to, like, as a statement, I think helps you reach your goal. So I think that I'm going to reach my goal, because why would I be doing this if I didn't think so?
What's your goal setting process?
It has a lot to do with drawing from other people. So if I hear about an artist that achieved something like winning an award or was able to go on their first world tour or something like that, that kind of helps me set my own goals. So my goal for the end of the month is to just write it like 6 more songs, so that way in 3 months I can get half a album recorded, and the next year I can get an EP and an album released, or less than that, just an EP, or just like getting a band together. And that's just like small time goal, like that's just like short time, like temporary goals that hopefully, I think they're totally reachable, so it will happen one day. But for a life goal, I have always known that I want to live off my music. So I want to be able to get money from it. I want to be able to, like, that's the thing I want to do. I never want to be stuck in a building, like, just filling out a bunch of paperwork. I never want to do something that I don't enjoy just for the sake of making money. And that's why I want to do what I enjoy to make money.
Like, where do you see yourself in 10 years?
Oh, 10 years. How old will I be? I hope at that point that I'll have a few albums out, that I'll at least tour the US. I don't even need to win any awards, just be invited to them, just be invited to award shows. I would love to just have a lot more connections in the industry. I'll hopefully be living in New York or Nashville. I love Tennessee, and my sister lives there now. So for like love life and family, I don't know, because it is such a unstable business, and you have to travel a lot, and it's so much of not staying in one spot for long. I don't know. It depends on if I meet somebody that is willing to put up with me and up with the career, is willing to, support that. And I don't really know, but I'm okay with waiting till I'm married in my late 30s. I'm okay with that. So.
Any like other pieces of advice for those who are maybe struggling in the industry, or they don't know how to get started?
For struggling, just keep going. It's such a cliche thing to say, and I'm sure that lots of people have told you, but if you are good at it and you know that you're good at it, I mean, some people do think that they're very good, and that it's not always true. Draw from the people that care about you, because that's really important. But keep going. If you be reassured by people that love you, be reassured by yourself, and keep going, because you never really know. It could be somebody that sees your Instagram that owns a record label, and then he invites you to go there, and you meet this person, so you never really know. So just put yourself out there as much as you can, take any job you can, do any interview that you can, and get yourself out there.
What do you think makes a good song?
I've really looked into this a lot, because as a songwriter, I've had to kind of ask myself that question to see what I wanted to do, or what what other people wanted to hear. And I think for me, myself, I love, like, the perfect song is one that's not always like, it's not like anything else. It's like unique, and it has those sevens, and it has the suspended, and it has that random sharp that doesn't even make sense, but it does. It has like different patterns from the verse to the bridge to the chorus, and you don't know how it matches together, but it does. And even lyric wise, you can kind of tell if someone cried making a song. So if I make myself cry or smile or laugh when I'm writing a song, then I know that it's probably going to be a good song. As a songwriter and as a singer myself, it's kind of a balance between what do people want to hear and what do I want to make, because sometimes that doesn't always correlate. I think that people like Billie Eilish and Freddie Mercury and Elton John and people like that were able to find something that was so them that people couldn't not like it. And I know that's kind of hard to say that out loud. Like, it's kind of weird to say out loud, but it's so appealing, but in a different way that people didn't hear, that's why they want to listen to it. But that's a very small margin. Like, not very many artists can do that, so.
You mentioned your faith before. Do you think that's like been a big influence of your songwriting and stuff like that?
Not a lot. I think that my faith kind of established my morals and what I love. So second-handedly it did. I do think that my faith did influence it, just because it affected my morals and like what I like to do.
What stuff have you been on?
Like
productions, like stage productions?
Oh, okay. I am pretty new to the industry, so I haven't been a part of a lot yet. But I've been in musicals, and I've just been in regular shows. I've performed with a band. I've performed solo. The only thing I haven't done yet is done like voice acting or like film or something. So I'm not on camera very often, but I'm on stages, like physical stages.
Have Have you ever made a mistake on stage or in a performance?
Yeah, every single time. I think that it's impossible to be perfect, and it's impossible to not mess up one word or to not execute a note perfectly, or you take a wrong breath, or you get nervous, or you trip, or something like that. And I think that's part of the beauty of performing live, is that people that see you see that as like a representation of an actual human being that just happens to have talent. So it's just so cool. I think that's really cool. That's why the mistakes are so important.
So when you make a mistake,
Mm-hmm.
how do you feel? What's your thought process?
Well, my head, like my face gets flushed. I feel butterflies. I think like like if you were to trip in front of your crush or something, that's kind of the feeling that I would explain. But it also depends on what time in the performance. So like at the very beginning, if you mess up, it's going to be a lot more unsettling to you than if it was at the end of the night, because as I said with music, what's so cool is that it does establish a connection. So if I am performing and I recognize that that one lady is dancing all night in the corner, then by the end of it I draw her energy and she's been jamming all night, so then I can jam all night. And it's just like reading the crowd and getting ease from them, even though they don't mean to give it all the time.
Have you ever made a mistake that was so big, you're like, why did I do that? Do you ever overthink your mistakes at all, or?
I think it's so normal to overthink your mistakes. Part of being so passionate and intense about stuff is that I am so passionate and intense about stuff. So I'm very critical of myself. I nitpick everything. That's why I have such a hard time seeing myself on camera or listening back to recordings, because I can pinpoint exactly what went wrong, where it was. I didn't pronounce this like this vowel correctly or something like that. But like when I was younger, if I would really mess up the key, like if you're completely in the wrong key, then you can either allow your musicians to carry on and then you will find your key again, or you have to start over. And when I was younger, I didn't have anybody playing for me. So when I messed up a key, I would have to start over. And that was really embarrassing. And that's probably the most intense mistake I've made, but I've learned from it. And I think that I avoid doing it now, so. Yeah, one massive mistake that I'm thinking of while performing, I guess, is during the national anthem, instead of "Oh say can you see," I said "Oh say can we see." And I don't know why. I don't know why I was thinking of it, but there's something about the national anthem, and I think that any singer can attest to it. Everybody knows it. It's the vocal range is, if you don't get the right key, then you just screwed yourself, because you might be good for the first half of the song, but the second half of the song just skyrockets. And so I was just thinking about everything else, and I got the words wrong. So if for anybody that's singing the national anthem, don't think about it too much, because if you allow your body to do it, then it'll do it.
Awesome. Did anybody notice?
Everyone pretty much noticed. There was a few people said something to me, but they all took it as a joke, so they weren't overly critical at all.
Yeah, I was just about to say, what were people's responses?
I got a lot of compliments normally. I think that people knew it in that moment, and then later on, it is kind of a longer song, so they heard it. They're like, "Ooh, that was a mistake," and then they moved on for like the rest of it. I just made sure to do really good for the second half of the song,
Right.
just to make them forget.
What has been your favorite performance or moment in your career?
I've done some really cool auditions. So for some really cool people, I can't say everything that I've done, but it's just the experiences and the people that I've met and the things that I've gone through are so cool. So audition for everything that you can. For anybody that wants to get out there, audition for everything, because the coolest experiences come out from it. But performance-wise, it was pretty recent. It was like a year ago. I was doing a Halloween performance with my band. There was this little girl that had red hair, was bouncing up and down, and she had pink glasses on. And she was so absorbed in it, and the songs were so much older than her. She probably had no idea what was being sung, had no idea what the songs were. But at the end of it, she comes running up to me, and she pulls on my pants, and she asked for an autograph and a picture. And that was the first time that I had a little kid do that. So I started crying. It was a whole thing. I've had other people ask for autographs as like a joke, but just someone that's just like a complete stranger, having no idea who I am, just being so excited and wanting a picture with somebody that's dressed up as a pirate that her mom dragged her to or something, and it was just insane. So definitely that one.
What do you do for fun?
I love to do anything that's like action packed and like super exhilarating. So horseback riding to drawing something or reading a really like energetic book or something like that.
What kind of stuff do you like to read?
I really love historical fiction, like 1600s-ish, and I really love like fantasy things. Anything by Colleen Hoover and Sarah J. Maas. So good.
You mentioned drawing. Do you like to draw too?
I do. I don't really work in it that much, so it's not anything insane. Like I'm not super talented. I just like to doodle. Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
what's your favorite season?
My favorite season? I thought that it was fall, but I realized that it's such a short time. It kind of makes me sad. So I think I've decided to go to spring.
Spring?
Mm-hmm.
What about spring is like fulfilling to you?
Well, I don't know if you can tell, but I really like pink. So it's just like a whole bloom of color, and it's just really beautiful. And then it goes into summer, and that's when people start laying off. People tend to be happier in spring too, I feel like.
Who inspires you?
Well, in the industry-wise, I love her, like Her. I love that artist. She's basically everything that I want to be when I grow up. But as a person, I mentioned my friend Molly. I have a best friend named Molly, and she is one of the best people that I know in my entire life. So I just hope to be more like her every day.
What 3 words best describe you with no explanation?
Passionate, intense, and friendly? I think so.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Go ahead and explain.
Passionate and intense kind of tie in with each other because I just feel everything like tenfold. I think that's a really common thing with artists and singers and like musicians and stuff. I just feel so much for everything that it makes me kind of intense, and I have to reel it back once in a while. But I just love feeling, and I love feeling a lot. So that goes into being passionate, and it goes into being intense and friendly, just because I really love strangers and I love meeting them and I like knowing about them, and you can probably know a lot about me by the end of a conversation. So.
You mentioned you like to feel.
Mm-hmm.
Do you like to feel just happy feelings, or do you like all of the feelings? Do you think you need a mix of both?
I do think it's healthy to have a mix of both. I think that if you're happy all the time, you don't appreciate the happiness as much if you don't feel sad. Staying up late and crying sometimes to listen to a sad song is completely acceptable and even healthy to some extent, as long as you don't do it all the time. I just like to feel everything. I think that if you don't feel something, that it's something that you have to reflect on in yourself, and something that everybody should strive for.
What is your biggest strength and your biggest weakness?
My biggest strength is that I'm confident, and my biggest weakness is that I'm confident. Because I'm confident, I can walk into any room and basically take charge of any situation. I can handle a lot of things. I can have a lot of things thrown at me and be okay with it. But because I'm so confident, sometimes it comes off as like cocky or stubborn. I can be really stubborn, or it can just be really intense for people. So I have to learn I need to learn more how to read people and kind of ease off a little bit.
What was a time, like give us an example of a time where you just walked into the door and owned the place?
There was this band practice at my school. The director stepped away for a moment and he asked me to step in just because I was one of the oldest ones there and I had the most knowledge and things like that. And they were kind of going nuts and going crazy, and I kind of put the hammer down, I guess is the way that you would say it. I was a little bit intense, but things needed to be done and practices needed to go on, and I kind of just took control of that and led a practice.
Awesome.
Yeah.
How do you think that's gonna impact your career? Like just having that confidence from the get-go.
I think that in this industry, like singing and creating, period, for anybody, it's so much rejection and you get told no so much. You have to have confidence in yourself, because if you don't, then you're just going to crash. You're just going to crash and burn. So
What are your 3 biggest skills?
I can match pitch pretty quick, like pretty easily. So I, like if you say C or something like that, I probably can't do it now. So, but I mean like harmonies and just hearing where things are supposed to be placed in music, I can pretty much do it. I can read really fast. I can get through a book in a couple hours just because I am a speed reader. And then the third is, I was gonna say I'm organized, but I'm not. I'm driven. So if I wanted to be organized, I could be.
With your biggest skills, when you said one of them was like kind of ear training, stuff like that, is that something you've naturally been good at, or is that something you had to work at?
A little bit of both. I think that to be really great at it, you have to be born with a lot of the ability, and I think that hopefully I am, and I was. I mean, my career would be a lot harder if I wasn't. But yeah, I think I was born with a lot of it, but you do get better at it through lessons and just knowing how to like form your voice and just like pitch perfection and yeah, things like that.
Do you have anything else you want to share?
Okay, so I don't know why, but I'm thinking about like clothes and the things for performing and stuff, or like even just like performance, because a problem that I kind of had when I was trying to find my identity as a performer was, what do I want to do and how do I want to make people feel? So, you know, Ariana Grande does put on like bedazzled one piece, and that's fine, and we'll dance with a bunch of dancers with a choreography that's insane, and that's really, it's amazing to watch. But I think that personally for myself, I love that there could be a singer and a band, and they don't really have a lot of jewels, they don't really have a lot of performance, but just them making music in and of itself is the performance, and to be able to draw people into it. I just think it's holds such a power. And that's what I've always wanted to do as an artist, to be able to sit down at a piano and play, much like Elton John when he first started, is sit down at a piano and play, and that's your performance. Like, that's what makes people want to watch you, is that someone, someone could just sit there and watch you play an instrument, and that's entertaining. And I think that's absolutely amazing. So that's what I want to do with mine. Clothing-wise, make sure, for any performer out there, I know I'm giving a lot of advice for performers, but these are things that I wish that I heard when I was younger. Dress like you want. Whatever you feel comfortable in, whatever you feel beautiful in, then you wear that. Even if it's a little out of the box, even if it's completely normal. Probably shouldn't show up with stained sweatpants. But wear what you want and what you're comfortable with, and look up other people that you really like, artists that you really like, and what they wear and what they have as fashion, to just pull from what you want. And that will help your identity as a performer so much. I can't even explain it, just is.
Where can people find more about you?
I've been waiting for this question. So I'm on Instagram at officially Sarah Michelle, and the same for Twitter, but it's like the military grade, so it's just it's OFL, but mainly Instagram, my public account. Yeah, thank you. Thank you guys so much for watching, and remember to like, comment, and subscribe to this channel. You can find out more about me on Instagram at officially Sarah Michelle, and watch out for upcoming projects and new music. Remember to be confident and believe in yourself. Bye. Was it? Was that the one? Woo!
Real quick.